in terms of Snooty, I feel like Laya might be the expert here.
May?
I just slowly back away.
Flo just starts rubbing his face.
I slowly back away towards Flo and pull out my berries and start munching them slowly.
All the caravan equipment is in your inventories. I made sure that I added all that in there. All of that stuff was divided up when we leveled up. But each one of you has whatever we talked about in your inventories, and everybody is level 4. I will take the liberty of saying that unless there was anything specific you guys wanted to do, that we will just kind of say that you guys came down, had dinner, and then went to bed for the evening, and we can kind of just start with the next day.
What did we eat?
What does Orlo hate the most?
Mushrooms.
Mushrooms.
Makes sense. I hate it.
Bunch of mushrooms. Just the whole plate full of fucking mushrooms.
Orlo didn't eat that. Orlo ate berries.
No, it would have probably been some kind of a like a root stew.
Root stew?
I actually have a couple things in the night that I would like. Oh, that was loud. That I would like to do, and I will DM you about them.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yes.
Anybody else have anything that they felt particularly inclined to do in the evening?
Nope. Not I.
Okay. Then, as you guys would have kind of single file, making your way back into the actual main part of the tavern, because if you remember, you guys are staying in those like little mushroom huts that are kind of located out back a little bit. So as you would make your way back into the tavern, kind of one by one, maybe sitting down at a table, Zrinka would kind of just start bringing you things over. Some like little sausages and some eggs and things like that. Just very, very normal breakfast foods. So if you guys want to kind of get yourselves together and maybe discuss if you guys had any plans or anything you wanted to take care of, or what you guys wanted to be focusing on, etc. And then we'll kind of go from there.
This is much better than what we were eating last night.
Yes, it's not that bad. And you know what? I don't think there's any purpose in keeping this disguise anymore. And I go like this, and I turn into a female high elf, and I say, "My name's Ayla, actually."
Well then.
Hello, Ayla.
Yes, I hid my original appearance because I wasn't sure if I could trust you, but I feel like we've been past that at this point.
Quite.
After everything that's happened, I would sure hope so.
Yeah. Considering our adventures back in Drill, we've definitely been through a lot.
Especially the two of you.
Hey, I didn't try climbing the tree.
Leave the climbing to me.
And as you guys are kind of just having your discussions, Zrinka will kind of walk by and she'll, pour some tea or coffee into your, some mugs that are on the table. And she'll kind of as she walks by each one of you, kind of pat you and kind of just waddle her way through.
Did everybody sleep all right?
Fine, thank you. How about yourself?
Not so bad, not so bad. So what are we thinking about doing here?
Well, We came to speak to the elders, but doesn't seem that Zrinka agrees that they're that wise. Or actually may know what's going on. I say we talk to our hostess and see what information we can get out of her, or what information she's willing to part with.
I agree. I think it might be wise to stay here for at least a little while, just to see what we can learn.
Absolutely. I still think we should probably talk to the elders at some point just to get some perspective on the situation here.
Really obsessed with those elders, aren't you?
I told you they'd be here.
So after, a little bit of time goes past, you guys are kind of discussing some things. Zrinka makes her way back over and kind of like props herself at the end of the table, starts kind of gathering up the plates and things of that nature. And kind of just like looks at you all and she's like, "Oh, how was everything? Was it good? Did you enjoy it?"
Yes, ma'am, it was lovely. Thank you.
"Oh, of course, darling. Can I get anybody anything else? Is everybody satisfied?"
I think I'm full for now.
Quite good, thank you.
I won't be needing anything else.
Okay, then. Fine. Is there anything else you need from me? You all seem to be a bit, I don't know if trouble's the right word, but, I don't know. You seem a bit down.
Well, we really don't know where to begin.
Well, I mean, a tavern's as good a place as any, I suppose.
Yeah, we were just kind of almost dragged through to this world, and we were hanging out with Avram for since we've been here. We traveled with him to Drail, and he introduced us to some people there and told us that there was just devastation here from magic, and he wants to figure out what's going on, and kind of said this might be a good place to go, this direction. And we had come across Pace, and he had something for you, so it's kind of nice that our paths have crossed, because you seem to have a good idea about what's going on here.
Well, I mean, after spending a few hundred years around the place, you tend to get to know it a little bit.
I suppose that's true. I'm not used to sticking in more than one place for more than a couple years, so.
Oh, it's all right. I used to be just like you when I was younger. Used to run all over the place.
Stumbled across anything interesting in your adventures?
You see her kind of pause for a moment. She looks down for a second. And then she looks up at you, and, she just taps the end of her nose a little bit and goes, "Oh, I don't know about all that."
Just gonna look confused.
She kind of gives you a little wink and just a small smile. Well, if you're here with the purpose of trying to figure out what's going on, I think that maybe there are some things that you should probably know. It seems like you definitely don't know your way around. That's for certain. And you said pulled here, which tells me that something a little bit different's going on. Now, if I were to take a guess, and I don't know much, but if I were to take a guess, I would say you might be interested in talking to a few different people. Now, I know that I told you that those druids aren't a whole lot of anything, but there's one of them in particular that I think you might find of particular interest. And the other that I think you might want to speak to might be a little bit harder to get a hold of. But if you can find him, he could be of use. He's a little bit, let's say finicky. That might be a good word for now.
Are you saying there's a finicky elder?
I don't know that I'd quite call him an elder, but he's definitely old, darling. Very, very. I'm not even sure how old, honestly.
Does he have a name?
Oh, yes, his name is Bacchus. But the one that will definitely be easy to find, his name is Soreth. He's over there in that big old lavish, gross building that they all like to use. And, as always, I'm always here. I wander, as you definitely know by now, but I'm always here. And if you have any questions, I will do my best to answer them to the best I can.
Well, it sounds like we got a little bit more to go on now, Orlo.
We do, Isla. That we do. Who do you think we should talk to first?
It's Ayla, actually, but Bacchus sounded interesting.
Pronunciations are not my strong point.
You do have quite a few other talents, though. Thinking back to climbing the tree.
Don't
Yes.
forget smashing things.
Bonebreaker is definitely a talent.
But if I had to give my opinion, I'd say Soreth would be the best place to start. Perhaps if Barkus is as tricky to find as Zrinka says, then maybe that task is better suited to someone who knows him.
Yeah, I agree. I think we should go talk to them and just see what they know. Is there anybody else that would be useful to talk to while we're out and about?
Oh, I mean, I suppose it depends on what you want to do. There's all kinds of interesting people to talk to.
Is there anybody like particularly interesting? If you know anything about pace, I mean, you kind of know the things that myself and Isla get into. So, I mean, if there's anybody like that,
It's Ayla.
Ayla, sorry. I told you, not my strong point. Leah coming after me. Left
It's
and right.
Liar.
Oh my goodness.
Flo's just gonna adjust his hood for plausible deniability again.
So would you two like to go I mean, not you, Laya.
Excuse me?
I mean, if you want to come along, you can, but I don't know if you want to come on the adventures that the two of us like to go on.
If I learned anything from the last time, it's that you need a babysitter.
I suppose you're right. It would be nice to partake and not babysit. So Zrinka, you know anybody like that?
You know, I once knew a guy. No, you know what? Never mind. That's not important. What you were saying, I think I might. I'd have to talk to somebody.
Okay, we'll reconvene on this topic in a little bit here. I think we have enough to go on to go out and see what we might be able to find.
Well, then, if that's the case, you see her just kind of turn and hop down off the stool that she's sitting on and walk over to the bar. And she pours 4 drinks and brings them over to the table and sets them on the table. She says, "You're going to need these."
Ma'am, what exactly are these?
Don't worry about it, darling. It's fine. I promise. Just drink it.
All right, thank you.
Well, this isn't the first time. Throw it back. You know how
I'll
Orlo does.
just kind of like cheers everybody and throw it back and do my best to take it like a champ.
Flo's going to hold his up and say, I don't quite need to consume.
And you see that Zrinka kind of like looks at you, and she's kind of like gets a little bit of like a shoulder hunch going on, and she kind of gives you like the mom eye, and she's like, "I don't care if you need to."
Flo, I think you better listen to her.
It's only polite.
I haven't seen her look like that in a long time, but I don't like what's on the other end of it.
Slowly take a drink from his cup.
And it's actually a pretty sweet, like almost a berry wine. And it's pretty good, honestly, if you're into that sort of thing. It's not.
I am into that sort of thing.
It's not particularly strong, but it is. It's got a little bit of alcohol content to it.
Well, that was delicious.
And she just kind of looks at you and winks, and she's like, "I told you."
I think that's the best thing I've had since I've been here.
She kind of gives you almost a little bit of a side eye, and she just kind of lets it slide.
Yeah, it's quite good.
Well, good. I'm glad you all enjoyed it. And she kind of like stops and pauses, looking at Flo for a second, and then she walks over, kind of cleans up the glasses, sets them back on the bar, and says, "Like I said, whenever you get over to their fancy building, feel free. Just go in, ask for Sorith. He doesn't do a whole lot. None of them do. He'll be there. You can speak with him. And if he needs, feel free to let him know that I sent you."
All right, guys. So we're off to fancy building then, right?
To the fancy building.
To the fancy building.
To the fancy building. You know, I might actually drink that again. Just because.
Oh, Zrinka, we'll take another round, please.
She kind of looks back and she cracks a smile. She goes, "You might want to hold up on that, darling, I promise."
Oh, no.
Smile fades from Flo's face.
I get a very large grin on my face.
So, as you guys kind of get up and start to make your way out of the building, I'll kind of reset the scene for you guys, since it's been a little bit of time since we've played. So the town is kind of set down into a low-lying forest. At this point, it's just a little bit past morning, so the sun's kind of just barely kind of creaking through the tops of some of these trees. and the roads are all kind of just soil and dirt, very well maintained, and most of the buildings are just one story or so, especially right in this area. And they're all made out of wood or like some clay or compacted dirt, whatever, very natural. But in the middle of the town, there's kind of a little bit of a hill. It's not super high compared to everything else, but it sits up a little bit more. But it is also a very large tree that kind of spans out and stretches through some of the town. There's a lot of roots that kind of like go up into this larger, massive tree that's kind of in the center. And this is clearly the building that Zrinka is talking about, but you can tell that it is very ornately decorated. There's a lot of carvings that are into it. It's kind of like almost like a woodworking project. There's so much detail, and it depicts different scenes of things like animals, and some of them are waterfalls, things like that. Very natural scenes that are kind of depicted throughout, but it is very, very intricately and beautifully designed.
So, all these buildings, they look pretty fancy.
Well, they did say these people are kind of snooty.
But how are we supposed to go to the fancy building when all of them look fancy?
Well, in terms of snooty, I feel like Laya might be the expert here.
May?
I just slowly back away.
Flo just starts rubbing his face.
I slowly back away towards Flo and pull out my berries and start munching them slowly.
What do you mean by that?
Well, I've just always had the impression that you came from some type of royalty and expect a certain level of expectations for things.
Oh, is that right?
Should we stop this?
Not yet, not yet.
And in this case, it's very useful.
Uh-huh. And what about in other cases?
Orlo.
In other cases, what do you mean?
You said in this case it's very useful. So what about in other cases?
In other cases, it just shows a little bit of inexperience, but that's not exactly your fault.
An experience. All right.
Just a little bit.
Okay. Oh, all right. And I'll just I'm just gonna look around at the buildings and see if I can identify which ones Zrinka was referring to.
Very, very easily. The big tree in the middle would clearly be your first indication, especially in a normal town setup. That would make a lot of sense to you.
So, based on not my expectations, but based on what I know about druids, I'm going to guess that it's the big tree.
I have nothing else to go on, so I'm gonna have to agree.
See, I said she would be the person that we would need to speak to.
Maybe it's good they got this off their chest.
Sometimes you just gotta let the cubs fight a little bit, you know what I'm saying?
And I'm just going to huff a little bit and just start beelining towards the tree.
So it's not a super far walk. It's just a few minutes. up the path. And you guys pass a few, like I said, smaller homes and buildings as you kind of walk through. They look like most of them are homes, especially in this part of the town. There are a few smaller shops. It looks like a couple of them that you pass are like food stalls that maybe some of the farmers bring their products into and kind of like communally sell everything so that it's all in one place. But nothing particularly interesting stands out to any of your normal interests. So if there's anything in particular other than that you would be looking for,
There's no herbs?
not right off the bat, no.
Son of a bitch!
Your particular interest. So you guys would be able to make your way up there relatively quickly. And as you would approach the front entrance, the opening of the tree building itself is just a big hollowed out door. There's not actually a hollowed out like archway. There's not a physical door there, but it just kind of walks into the center of this large tree, and the sun is kind of starting to pour through some of the carvings that they're not carved the whole way through the tree, but it's like almost very, very thin, like a glass would be put in, kind of a similar style. And then, the floors inside of this is kind of mostly just roots and dirt and soil and stones. It's nothing. It's nothing more than what you would expect, from outside. But you can see that as you're kind of like looking around, that it doesn't seem like any of the people inside of this building, to which there are most certainly a few, just kind of wandering around doing their own jobs. But it doesn't look like any of them are wearing shoes. So it doesn't seem like any of them are particularly bothered by the flooring of this building.
Are there any guards?
From what you can see, it's not like there's any just like standing at the door or anything like that.
How close is the nearest person?
Just a few feet, probably, as they'd just kind of be wandering by doing whatever job they were doing.
I'll grab them. Hey, real quick, you seem to be from around here. Is this the fancy building?
I suppose.
We're looking for the fancy building.
Oh, hello.
Hello. Like, you kind of see his eyes, like, just getting wider and wider as he starts to panic.
I'm so sorry, sir. We're looking for Sorith.
Oh, hi, yeah. And you see him just like shakily pointing his finger over, like, in a direction into the building itself. He'll be over there.
Thank you very much. So this is the fancy building.
Uh-huh. And he just stands there.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Uh-huh.
We really do.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna salute him and then follow behind everybody.
I'm going to lean over to Orlo and say, I guess they don't like it when you refer to it as the fancy building.
I'm just referring to it by what Zrinka called it.
I can't imagine why.
And as you guys walk away, he still just keeps standing there. He just doesn't move. But as you make your way in a little bit more, the interior of this building is a little strange. It's kind of carved out of the tree itself. So it definitely takes some strange twists and turns, but you can understand the kind of logic as to how to get through it. In following where he pointed to, you make your way through, and it kind of drops down a little bit, and it opens into a big room that's kind of like lowered down, and there's all kinds of roots that kind of stretch out and into this large pool in the middle of this room. And from what you can see, it's at least relatively deep because it's pretty clear, so you can see kind of far into it. And there's a few people kind of standing around that are doing, again, different tasks. Some people are kind of, looks like some people are drawing water out of it. Some people are writing some things down, things of that nature.
So how do we know which one is Sorith?
That's what I was wondering.
Maybe we should just ask someone. Might be a good idea.
And as you guys are standing there talking for a moment, you see this taller elf kind of turn towards you, completely white hair, just some like brownish, grayish robes. Nothing particularly outstanding about his clothing or his wares, and but he has a very, like I said, he's an elf. He's very smooth, clean features, and he kind of turns over to you, and he looks and says, "Did one of you say Sorith?"
Yes, we did. We're looking for Sorith.
And he kind of stands up, and as he stands up, he's probably about 6.5 feet tall, just judging from his, from as far away as he is to you. He makes his way over, and kind of, as he gets closer, he just kind of gives you all a, very general gesture and says, "That is me. Can I help you with something?"
Pleasure to meet you, sir. We were told that you are someone we can talk to about this magical fallout that your world is going through.
You certainly can. I have had some experience with it, that is for certain.
If you had to explain exactly, well, what exactly happened to someone who wasn't exactly from this world, how would you do so?
And he pauses for a moment and kind of looks at the ground. Then he looks up and says, "If I were to explain it to somebody that had never heard of it before, I feel like I would have to at least say that it's like having everything you know around you just fill with life and explode, and not in a violent way, in a growth, in size, or you yourself shrunk, I suppose. But the world that we had here was mostly peaceful life. We had our issues, as does anyone, but the magic made everything dangerous, aggressive. Particularly some of the plants and animals that we thought we called friends at one point. He pauses for a moment and kind of just lets that set in, even to himself a little bit.
So while other areas experienced a decline in magic, Elriel experienced a surge.
Yes. Well, I suppose you could say it that way. I feel it's just, personally, the different kinds of magic. We have always been here, us druids. We have made our home here for centuries. And I feel as though that may have something to do with it.
Has there ever been anything in place that served as protection or the core of Elriel, of this area?
Well, we druids have always been the protectors. We have always tried our best to maintain the balance and the harmony with nature. But if you're speaking of a trinket or a relic, not specifically, no.
I'll just walk off as I'm thinking things in my head. 'Cause I actually have to think about something.
And he kind of stops for a second and looks, and he goes, I do apologize, but is there a particular reason that you are asking? And he kind of just looks around at all of you. I can tell that you are most certainly not from this area, but
We were charged with figuring out what happened to this world, and we are trying to get to the bottom of that.
that's very valiant of you. You do not have to divulge this information, but who is it that tasked you with this, or is this just a deed of your own?
Ulfrim, if you know of him.
And he kind of cracks a small smile, and he goes, oh, well, I suppose that makes sense.
He didn't exactly give us a whole lot to go on, though.
Oh, well, that also makes that also makes quite a bit of sense. He's an interesting fellow. Very good-natured, for sure. But interesting, for sure, as well.
Interesting how?
He tends to... how do you say, I suppose, works on his own program. He's not one to sit around idly and let things happen. He likes to enact change. Now, that is not to say in a bad way, but he's always up to something, that's for sure.
I mean, excuse me, but it just sounds like he's trying to help people and save people. How is that? I mean, rather than sitting idly by, that seems like, noble cause.
You see him kind of nod a little bit, and he goes, I suppose one could look at it that way. Yes, that makes sense.
And there's another way to look at it?
Well, for those of us that have responsibility and for those of us that have a purpose that we must protect, there are some other things that are more important than running around and playing with things that we have no impact on.
And I just stop and look back. What is the opinion of the Druids on other magic users in this world?
Well, we don't have much to say. We know that at least some of this was caused by some of them, not all of them, but they are certainly to blame to an extent.
Would you happen to be talking about those at Bracker Court?
I believe those are certainly some of them.
And when you say you've been here for centuries and you maintain the balance, just how do you go about doing so?
Well, us druids are particularly good at harmonizing with nature. We make sure that we do not take too much, and when we take, we give back. And it is about making sure that we stay within that balance, because if not, then bad things can happen.
Like a decrease in magic if another side was taking too much from nature.
Certainly a way to look at it, yes.
So it's pretty obvious that you and many people around here don't seem to get along well with the people at Bracker Court. So if you're on one end of the spectrum and the people at Bracker Court are on the other end, where would you put Avram?
Oh, well, I suppose somewhere. I wouldn't say in between, but I would say somehow diametrically opposed to both.
So you're alluding to that the people at Bracker Court are part of the reason why this world is the way it is?
I wouldn't say all of them, but I certainly believe that there are those of them that have a hand, yes.
Do you have any idea what exactly they did?
Well, as with us, we try to keep the balance, and they do not always feel that way.
What were they using all this magical power for?
Well, some of it is for the city itself, I suppose. Things like their fancy lights and their large buildings. There's many things I am sure that they can use it for, but I couldn't say specifically what would have been the catalyst for something quite as terrible as this, but it would have had to have been something very large.
What could they possibly need something that uses that kind of magical power for?
I wish that I had a better answer for you for that, but unfortunately, that I do not.
Besides Bracker Court, is there anything else or any other people you think that could be capable?
Well, as far as large groups of people, not particularly. There are some dwarves, but they're not generally particularly magically inclined people. There are always your rogue groups of mages and wizards and warlocks and sorcerers and sorceresses and all of those people in between, but it would be something of some particularly powerful magic. Somebody would have to be using incredibly powerful, incredibly dangerous magics for something like this to happen. And again, it is not out of the realm of possibility that it could have just been a few individuals, a cult or something of the like. it could be possible.
Forgive me for I'm not knowledgeable on the subject of matter, but you mentioned that you use nature for your magic.
Yes.
It is, but nature is only a type of magic, not the source of all magic, correct?
Ah, very astute of you. That is correct.
And Flo's just going. I'm just going to walk away. I have another theory that I need to think about.
Okay.
I'm sure you're familiar. You live here. I'm sure you're familiar with Zrinka. We stayed at her place last night. For some reason, she didn't seem to care for this whole, enclave of druids you have over here, but she seemed to like you better than the rest. Why do you stand out?
Well, and he kind of just rolls his eyes a little bit. Zrinka is, well, you've met her. She's a very special creature. She, at one time, practiced and helped us very much with our rituals and our magics. But there are some of us whom I suppose left a bad taste in her mouth, but her and I have always been on good terms.
Understood.
You know, I understand that you are all probably quite busy, but if at any point it wouldn't be too much trouble, there is something that might benefit both of us. And you seem like you could be particularly useful in helping fix that.
I'm pretty good at breaking things. I don't know about fixing.
Breaking might work as well.
Hopefully it's bones.
There have been rumors that we've been dealing with for some time now. A few of our local hunters and guards particularly have issues with it from time to time. In the northern part of our forests close to Elriel, we have had reports that they continuously see spirits or wisps of ghosts or something always along that line. Nobody's ever hurt, but it might be worth looking into. There might be some type of disturbance in that area that could be causing such a thing. It could be nothing, but if it's something that you look into for me, I could most certainly assure some type of compensation for you.
Well, that sounds like fun.
He kind of just cracks a smile at Laya. It's like, you seem very eager.
I don't know. I've been told I'm more snooty.
I've heard that.
Just goes back to thinking.
But yes, if you happen to be in the area, and you see him kind of. He looks at one of the like one of the people that are kind of wandering around, gets their attention, and kind of like waves to them. They go running off, and a few seconds later, they kind of bring back this. It's like a vellum, like a parchment, and they hand it to him, and he kind of sketches something on it, like kind of just a very crude map of like directions towards where he's speaking about from the town, and he kind of hands it out. It, like put it in his hand and holds it out towards you and says, if you happen to make your way up in this area, it would be something I would very much appreciate you looking into for me. And again, I will make sure you are compensated if it is taken care of.
Do you mind if I hold on to that map?
No, please take. It is not particularly well drawn, and I do apologize, but it should give you a rough idea of where I'm talking.
I just take it and like happily like roll it up, stick it in my bag.
But is there anything else I can help you with for the moment? I do need to be getting back to work.
I don't believe so. I think you've given us enough to start on.
Oh, very well. And he kind of looks over at Flo and he says, maybe some more than others, but thank you all very much. If you ever need anything else, please feel free to stop back in and see me. I promise that looks a lot more violent than it is. She just likes to sprawl when she falls off the desk.
For a druid, you're rough on your feline friends there.
Oh, you know, they can get in the way. They always land on their feet, though. Most certainly. And he kind of gives you another small bow and and then turns back and goes back to his work.